Boats. Fun for rich people. Always a good time and never a bad time. Or is it? The crew of the Mary Celeste may say otherwise. That is, if we had ever heard from them again. I'm Spooky Maddie, and this is Anomalous. I'm Spooky Maddie.
And this is Just Cullen.
And welcome back to Anomalous, where we talk about all things mysterious, creepy, spooky, and altogether ooky. We would love to shout out to our original Creepy 13 listeners. It's a lot of fame to handle, but we hope you are listening. We appreciate you. Shout out to my mom, who uses this podcast to fall asleep. We are talking today about the Mary Celeste. Should be interesting. Ghost ship. Cullen knows a lot about ships and things, and I know nothing except it's fun for rich people.
You know a lot about ghosts.
I know a lot about ghosts, so together, hopefully, we can piece this together. Mm-hmm. So, the Mary Celeste is a famous ghost ship. It was an American merchant ship voyaging in 1872 to Genoa, Italy, carrying a cargo of over 1,700 barrels of denatured alcohol. The ship was found completely abandoned, the lifeboat gone, but still in saleable condition with the cargo intact. The crew of 7, captain, wife, and his infant daughter, were never heard from again. So, we're wondering what exactly caused them to jump ship.
Yeah. If everything's in proper working order, you have to wonder why anyone would want to get off a ship. Mm-hmm. Unless it's a cruise ship with your grandparents.
It's like shuffleboard with grandma or throwing myself over the deck.
Seas as high as the Empire State Building, or watching grandma's flab move around as she shuffles that board.
Okay, the Mary Celeste didn't begin as the Mary Celeste. It was a merchant brigantine constructed in Nova Scotia, and it was originally christened as the Amazon.
Christened?
I believe it was christened. It was baptized.
The Amazon was one of those girls at school that always wore the T on her chest.
That's fun. It's a cross. A cross from where?
Can we just steal jokes from Arrested Development?
I think so.
I'm going to give it
public
a
domain.
That's not how that works.
What? Okay, so on the Amazon's maiden voyage, her very first captain, Captain Robert McLellan, fell ill and died and was taken over. The captain ship, the captaining, was taken over by a Captain John Nutting Parker.
Very good. And the first hero of a long line of fun
Yes.
names. You imagine being John Nutting. You set out from Nova Scotia, and you're basically an intern. And the captain of this entire floating ship in the middle of an abyss starts to, get coronavirus.
Sure.
And falls ill. And then he's just like, Nutting, come here. I know that you've had a long past of just filling the inside of your shorts, but I need you to get this ship crew intact over to London and back.
That's very naughty. I don't know about that. Okay, Captain Nutting then crashed the ship into fishing equipment. And on the way back, he...
already screwing it up. It's his first day, Captain Nutting of the new ship, and he's just crashing it into a bunch of fishing cables. And didn't he sink a brig on the way out of London?
Yes, on the way back for his grand finale, he ran into and sank a brig in the English Channel.
Christ.
He still remained the captain for 2 years.
How? He sunk another ship. Imagine hitting another car and it just falls into the road and they don't take your license away.
Yeah.
And it's not even a car. They're both school buses with a bunch of dudes on board.
Well, after that, Captain Thompson took over for 4 years, generally far more competent. It seems like that's not hard to be more competent than
at all
that.
competent.
Yeah. On one foreign trade voyage in 1867, the ship was thrown ashore in a storm and abandoned. So, days later, Alexander McBean, who in our first draft of notes was referred to as Rat Man.
That was my little insert there. You have to understand that this ship crashed in October, and by October 15th, Mr. McBean scuttled his way all the way down there to scrounge up the remains.
Yes. McBean, the Queen Rat Man, salvaged the ship, and he sold it on to be refurbished in New York and renamed the Mary Celeste.
Some people say that it's bad luck to rename things, but Snoop Lion's doing just fine. Was it better when you heard it tonight? Was it better when you heard it on the recording than when I pitched it to you last night? Because you didn't laugh then either.
Yeah. So I guess if I had to rate it, yes, it was better.
That's not a rating.
So before the fateful 1872 voyage, which we will be talking about, this refurbishing was huge. It cost thousands of dollars, really revamped the ship.
Modern money, it was like $100K.
It seemed like a lot of money.
Seemed like a lot.
So after this huge refurbishing, their very first trip was on October 1872 from New York through the Gibraltar Strait to Genoa, Italy. And they were carrying a cargo of 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol.
This journey was fated to fail from the beginning because they asked, okay, we've got all this alcohol. Where are we bringing it? Genoa, Italy.
Oh, that's... okay, that's fun. Disrespectful to all Genoans. So the ragtag crew was a crew that was not rag nor tag.
Very good.
It consisted of Captain Benjamin Spooner Briggs.
Very good.
Who was a devoutly religious man, an all-around excellent, highly lauded captain. He brought his devoted wife and cousin, Sarah Briggs. Yeah.
Ooh.
Rich people.
Sarah Little Spoon Briggs.
Okay, Captain Benjamin Spooner Briggs and cousin Sarah Spooned Briggs.
/ wife.
Yes.
And daughter Sophia / mutant.
Oh, that's
very
sad. His 2-year-old daughter.
I'd like
Sophia.
to say, at all people from the past, you can't hide an embarrassing name in the middle and expect it to not come to light. You can't just be like, my name is Benjamin Spooner Briggs. It doesn't work like that. We're gonna notice it.
Well, he had a happy family. His wife, Sarah, and his 2-year-old daughter, Sophia, came along with him, and they left behind son Arthur, who was 7 at the time. The rest of the crew consisted of 7 members, the first mate, second mate, third mate, sailors, etc.
Yeah.
Many of whom Briggs had already worked with before, and they were all highly regarded. Him and his wife felt totally comfortable with them. They had worked together before they set sail, and letters from the wife to the mother-in-law were saying that it was great working with them, and they had a good team. So the story goes that the Dea Gratia, this is going to be rough.
Yeah,
throughout
this is a whole line of contention. We looked it up, and it's like, Dea Gratia is how it's spelled. And then we watched a Smithsonian video, or the amount that the fucking government would allow us to listen to. And they called it the Grazia, despite no S. But then we're like,
or Z.
Italian people are strange with their words. I don't know what Nova Scotia is all about. I think it's French. We're going to call it the Dea Gratia.
Well, I'm just going to say whatever feels right.
Yeah, it's like an improv where it confuses the audience.
Yes. So the Dea Gratia was a Nova Scotian merchant ship shipping petroleum, and it was captained by David Morehouse. They were also making the journey from the New York area, I think Hoboken, New Jersey, across the Atlantic to Genoa. And it has been speculated in some sources that Captain Morehouse and Captain Briggs knew each other, possibly in passing.
Some people say that they had like a dinner right before because they were friends and they knew each other. Some people say that they're not. I choose to believe that he was the captain's platonic friend who's also a lithe sea boy who can keep a secret.
Very fun. One of the sources said, they have a lot in common. So, I don't know, it would be cool if they were friends.
That's code and their private dinner together?
Yeah, that is interesting that there was speculation that there was a private dinner right before the Mary Celeste took off. So the Deo Gratia was making this same voyage 8 days after the Mary Celeste took off. What's the word for boats set sail? Flew to water. The Deo Gratia was sailing between the Azores and the coast of Portugal, so probably around midway through their journey when they spotted an abandoned ship with strange sail positions sailing erratically towards the Deo Gratia on December 4th.
I mean, these things are typical when you have DUI sailors just swerving back and forth, trying to look normal. He's like, I can sail actually, I think, better when I'm slightly drunk because I'm like more careful about it.
SUI.
And
sailing
SUI,
under the influence.
Very good.
Once they got closer, when they first spotted them, they were about 6 miles away. When they got closer, they saw that there was no one on the ship. So they boarded and found that it was the Mary Celeste because it had his name on the
butt.
Her's name.
All ships have a tramp stamp right above the gallery, right on their bum.
Very fun. Yeah, they saw on the ship that it was the Mary Celeste, and they found it abandoned sailing the seas itself. So the ship's condition when it was found is very interesting. The sails were partly furled, partly set. There were some sails that were torn. There were some sails completely missing, and the rigging and the ropes were damaged and all willy-nilly.
Willy-nilly,
yes,
is a sailing term.
Mm-hmm, yes, proper. There was apparently one fore hatch and 2 lazarette hatches open. The lifeboat was missing, and there was evidence that the lifeboat was at one point tied to the ship, so they got on the lifeboat, but they tied themselves to the ship so they could stick around, I guess.
That's what we think. It was towing a rope behind, which could be just like maybe the rigging fell apart. We don't know enough about it. This happened like 200 years ago?
1872.
Okay. So this happened 150 years ago. I don't own the ship. All right. So get off my ass about it.
Yeah, get off my back. I'm not the detail queen. Just kidding. I am. A lot of theories speculate that they probably tried to tie their lifeboat, their yawl, to the ship.
Tie it on, y'all. I'm about to tie one on, y'all.
That's fun. So 3.5 to 4 feet of water leaked in, was present in the bilge.
Very good.
The Mary J. Bilge.
Very good.
I'm learning a lot. So 3.5 to 4 feet of water isn't very alarming, especially for a ship that size. And obviously the ship was still afloat. One of the 2 pumps, which are used to take the water out of the bottom of the ship, was found deconstructed. Yeah. And a makeshift sounding rod was found. And
it's not the kind that you're probably thinking of right now. It's a rod that's designed to check how much water is in the bilge. That's not for the other thing, though similar construction. You have to understand that wood ships leak 4.5 feet isn't crazy. They can go up much higher. If it's getting up like 6 or 7 or 10, an experienced captain might be concerned. But they had one working pump, and it wasn't that high. And for it to have sailed on its own for whatever amount of time it did, that's not bad.
Mm-hmm. The cargo and the cabins were found untouched, intact, with many belongings left behind. So with the other crew members, they even had their clothes still folded. Mm-hmm. The cabin seemed fine. We'll get into the captain's quarters. Some maps were found askew. There were some papers being...
We don't know what papers were taken or what papers weren't taken.
We do a little.
I don't understand. He took his homework, okay?
Most of the official papers for the boat were taken, or the ship. Is that offensive?
All right.
Okay.
Let's fucking get... No.
Okay.
A brigantine is a ship that has a square foremast and a fore and aft rig mainmast, but it has on that mainmast,
so let's just like cut you off.
a ship
like
has,
it just
a ship has 3 masts.
It's
This
just
has 2. So it is a vessel or a boat.
okay.
I think I just got a text from my landlord.
So most of the official papers of the ship, the vessel,
Very good.
were missing, and pretty much all of the navigational items were missing. There was at least 6 months of provisions left. There was not any like dinners left. That's a common misconception.
They didn't,
they didn't
as
leave.
with Croatoa, it's speculative and probably BS that there were like dinners prepared and all
Yeah.
the things. They were all put away as a ship is at like all times, but they had it in stores.
So in the captain's quarters, there was found a sword under his bed.
Which is expensive back in the day. You can't just go to a San Diego Comic-Con and get a Sasuke sword.
A sword store.
A sword store.
His personal effects were found strewn about, so it was really his quarters seemed the most ransacked.
So he did leave the log behind.
And his sword. The captain's compass was missing, with the glass case that held it.
Compasses on old ships stand on a big stand that they have that goes off the floor, and then they sit in it, and then there's like a dome of glass over top, or like a sheet of glass, and you can just like look at the compass. So he broke that bitch open like it was a fire alarm and just yeeted the compass right out of it.
Yes.
So presumably took that with him.
Yeah. The ship's logs were left, as we mentioned earlier. The last entry was 9 days before, on the morning of November 25th. It stated that they were slightly off. So they were around the Santa Maria Islands of the Azores. And this is over 400 nautical miles away from where it was found 9 days later, which is a long way, I would say.
It is a long way, but theories state later that probably his chronometer was broken, and it could set you off that far. For an experienced captain, he can get back on track, and it seemed like he was trying to.
Interesting. The ship was obviously still saleable, but the crew of the Dea Gratia was able to finish the journey to Genoa, so they split their crew. Half of them took the Dea Gratia, half of them took the Mary Celeste, and they made it to Genoa. I want to say Nova Scotia.
Don't know.
Wow, I really don't.
I really don't.
Really don't. Thus commences the Mary Celeste salvage hearing. So if you don't know, I didn't know. I learned this. If you find an abandoned ship, you can just bring it in and be like, I found this, give me money.
I actually did look into this, and the statute from Nova Scotia for finding a abandoned ship is finders keepers.
Losers, weepers. Yes. Yeah. So the Mary Celeste was worth a lot. All of its cargo was still there. And it was insured for even more. My notes say 11 more.
11 more.
So its value, a lot. Its insurance, 11 more than that.
Yeah.
Though the crew of the Dea Gratia did not get much salvage money, and this is probably because the Attorney General, Solly Flood, was a certifiable eccentric.
The Honorable Solly Flood coming down. Fucking going, you know the ship that's slower than the ship that was abandoned and left 8 days after? I'm pretty sure they set them up and, like, killed them all to get the ship.
Yeah, here is, we actually have unreleased recording of Solly Flood's hearing recordings already. That is my turkey impression. Okay, yes, Cullen is correct. He was sure that foul play was involved. He accused first the crew of the Dea Gratia, then the crew of the Mary Celeste, then the crew of the Dea Gratia again, then both crews together.
Interesting.
Yeah, he inspected the ship, obviously looking for signs of foul play, found some scratches, cut marks possibly on both sides of the bow, as well as possible bloodstains in the railings and possible bloodstain on the captain's sword.
Can we get that recording again? This is the dumbest thing I've ever done.
So this, I think, really paved the way for the sensationalization of this story. because all the newspapers were just like, blood, gore, betrayal. And the crew of the Dei Gratia did not get their comeuppance. Is that?
Yeah.
Can you use that word for positive things?
Yeah, sure.
For sailing that ship all the way.
I don't think Merriam-Webster is listening to our podcast.
Well, maybe she is.
I think she's dead.
No.
I looked in the dictionary earlier and I looked up the definition of the word dead and it said Merriam-Webster.
So sad. So over the years, the sensationalization continues, and we still don't know for sure what could have happened to the crew of the Mary Celeste that fateful trip. Although, we have some theories.
First fun theory time, because I think it folds in pretty well with the crew attacking each other and going crazy and trying to, like, get insurance money. So the Captain Spooner, as you might surmise from the fact that...
Spooner Briggs.
Captain Spooner, as you might surmise from the fact that he married his cousin, was a violently religious man. Some sources say that during Sunday Mass, he would attest violently to his religious perfection, his religious purity. And there was a theory proposed by that he might have gone mad in a religious fervor and attacked the crews of the ship, just like running after them with his sword. There is no evidence to support this whatsoever. However, was he possessed? There's a lot of evidence to say that he might be possessed.
Oh, they're going to say no. No, he was not.
There's a lot of evidence to say that he wasn't.
Yeah, great. So, following the Attorney General's ideas and that very fun theory, foul play, some theories regarding that. Some evidence would be the scratches and cuts along the side of the bow, blood on the recovered sword of the captain, possible blood stains on the ship's rails, and another possible axe mark in the wood. So, one of the theories is that it was the crew of the Dei Gratia may have boarded, attacked, killed the crew of the Mary Celeste, wanting to get salvage money. That is one of Attorney Flood's main theories. The Dei Gratia, however, was the slower boat, and they left 8 days after the Mary Celeste. So, they would have to have been pretty lucky to catch up with them.
Yeah, and the crew of the Mary Celeste, rather unlucky.
True.
Wow. Left me out to dry.
So another foul play theory, possible pirates from North Africa or Riffian pirates. However, there was nothing stolen. Personal items were found in abundance. The ship was in good condition, and the evidence of foul play, the same, not necessarily definitive.
Imagine you're a pirate and you come across the captain's sword in his main room. Do you take the sword? Yes. Enough said about the pirates theory.
Yeah, fair enough. Theory that there could have been a mutiny. There was a trustworthy crew, perhaps mutinied. Sorry.
Breaking news, a trustworthy crew perhaps mutinied.
Did a trustworthy crew perhaps mutinied and killed the captain and his family? Or possibly they got drunk on the alcohol fumes and went into a rage, once again killing the captain and his family.
What was that quote from the article we were reading about it? There may have been a mutiny after the crew got drunk on the fumes of the alcohol, in parentheses, though non-potent.
Yes, so it seems very unlikely that the alcohol could have gotten them drunk, because that's just not how it works.
It's not. That's not the right kind of alcohol. And I know that sailors are basically just like a big spittoon walking around, but they're not gonna like gulp down denatured alcohol.
But will they huff the fumes?
They're non-potent.
Okay, so as Cullen mentioned, another theory was Captain Briggs went on a religious rampage, or maybe the exact opposite, and he was possessed by the devil and killed everyone.
I've been on several anti-religious rampages, so I could attest to that.
Euphoric Reddit user in the house.
Okay, this is getting cut for sure.
So all of the theories that accuse the crew of the Deo Gratia have been recanted and apologized for by the people who wrote them, because they pretty much were like, what if the captain killed his family? And then the captain's descendants were like, that's not cool.
You can't just go say that. He was like a gentle guy. And this all goes to say that, you know what you were told in elementary school, that like anything you put on the internet lives forever? That is not like an internet only thing. You can be a weird bearded man in 1880, just like, maybe he killed the entire crew in a possessed rampage. And that'll stick around until 2020, a time you can't possibly imagine, when two people scream about how he murdered all of those people in their library.
True that. There was a story released by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, which he does technically completely fictionalize.
Yeah.
It was based on.
Added several characters, changed all of them. Changed the name.
Called the name, it was about the Mary Celeste. In it, the Mary Celeste was boarded by an escaped slave with the hatred of white people, and all the crew is killed. But there's not much evidence for that, and in fact, it was written and made up by the author. So,
yeah. And we talked to a man in a Safeway who claimed he was a lawyer, and if you've been saying Mary Celeste this whole time, you're wrong, and you owe us $3 on PayPal.
PayPal in description. Pay up for all you Mary Celesters out there. The other theory with foul play is that there was perhaps an insurance scam brewing. Possibly there is that toit friendship between Captain Morehouse and Captain Briggs. So maybe it was an inside job to get...
Briggs.
Okay, yes, Benjamin Spooner Briggs. Perhaps it was an inside job to get insurance money. The Mary Celeste, as we stated before, was overinsured. But my only question is, if you were to do an insurance scam and then like disappear with the money, what about poor 7-year-old Arthur that they left behind?
He wasn't that good.
I think he
just wasn't that good. They figured leave him behind.
I think he was fine, maybe.
By 7 you can kind of tell.
Oh no. So the next possible circumstances that led to the abandonment of the ship are natural phenomena. There was some damage to the sails, not extensive. It still moved. The bilge was filled with around 3.5 to 4 feet of water, which once again isn't particularly concerning. But one of the pumps was deconstructed, and a makeshift sounding rod was found on board, which is suspicious.
It is suspicious, but it's not that crazy. And it seems like when the crew of the De Gratia showed up, they were able to check the water in the bridge pretty easily. They were.
But that inconsistency is covered in a theory about water spouts, which is basically a water tornado. So a water spout could have possibly hit the ship, filling the ship with water a little bit in reality, but with faulty pumps and a makeshift sounding rod, there could have been a false reading. I heard that since it's like a tornado.
Yeah, it's like a tornado of the water. I think that's technically a hurricane.
No, like the barometric pressure, something like that.
I honestly, before we started this, I genuinely thought water spouts were just like what whales did.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Maybe that happened.
Maybe it did.
Maybe a whale shooted him.
Also, I think if there was a water spout, wouldn't the ship just be like thrown up into the air and like bounce there on the top of the spout for a little bit before it comes back down?
That's like a whale water spout, not like a tornado water spout.
I don't understand this at all.
Well, they're saying that there could have been some funky stuff. I don't understand. I'm a biologist, not a meteorologist.
Isn't that the skies?
Is it? Oh, gosh, now I'm questioning it. But there could have been something with the barometric pressure causing a false reading. So maybe it looked like there was a lot more water coming in and maybe they thought they were about to sink. What I don't understand about that is they get on the lifeboat and maybe they're still attached to the boat, which don't attach yourself to a sinking ship.
Yeah.
I feel like they would have noticed their boat wasn't sinking and they would be like...
seen it slowly going down. And they would have like... You can feel when you're steering a ship whether or not it is completely full of water. And yeah, if you throw yourself off the back of it, why are you like this is a sinking ship and we need to get off it for sure, which is the only reason you get in a lifeboat.
Yeah.
And let's tie ourselves to it just in case we want it to, like, pull us down.
It is pretty well known that you don't abandon ship unless something is, like, going crazy, catastrophically wrong.
Unless you're sure, like, the ship is going down. Because, like, I did a little bit of research into this, and the ocean's pretty big.
Another theory is that the captain could have feared running aground while becalmed. So what it really means, in layman's terms...
Ship hit Earth because no wind.
Yeah, so they're not moving. He worries they're gonna hit land, which apparently is a bad thing.
It's not good.
So maybe if his navigation was off and was like, I'm scared we're gonna hit land, we're not getting any wind, but we're near land, maybe he thought they could just all get in the lifeboat and, like, row to land. However, the sails were half open. I don't understand that much about sailing, but it seems like that wouldn't be necessarily the situation if they were becalmed. Cullen, can you...
Would you like entry back into the sailing knowledge zone?
Sure.
1 ticket, please.
Okay, make it quick.
Thank you very much. I will not.
No.
So basically, ships are a balance between trying to get as much sail up as possible to catch the most wind and go fast, because you gotta, and worrying that the wind pushing all those sails is literally going to tear your ship apart. So if you were going to abandon and, like, trail behind it, like one of those bicyclists that follows big rigs on the highway, you wouldn't put a lot of sail up, because at any time the wind could get really bad, and while you're, like, hand over hand, I'm reeling my coworker in from across the officing your way onto the ship, the wind could destroy all of your sails and masts and yards and everything.
So do you think that the condition it was found in, with partly open, that's too much?
Partly open sails, there's not enough detail. He would have put some up if they were in trade winds just to keep it moving, but the damage to it also is not unexpected. Things break on ships. Lines break.
Oh, so maybe, like, more sails were open and broke and ripped.
It could have been. He probably put on a moderate amount of sail, or it doesn't follow the theory where he jumped off the back and he would have, like, had it come about. I don't know.
It's interesting, although I think the sources I've seen said that they had pretty tumultuous weather leading up, so I don't think there would have been a lack of winds.
They had harsh weather a few days before in the logs, and then later on, quite mild weather. And looking back through the weather logs for that time, it looked like pretty consistent trade winds in that area at that time. Mm-hmm. So that the ship, when abandoned for those 9 days, could have sailed itself to that point.
Interesting. Another theory about a natural thing that could have happened was a sea quake or an underwater earthquake. Obviously didn't destroy the ship.
So on board with both of these. I love the idea of a sea quake and an underwater quake. Basically earthquakes in places you wouldn't expect.
Scary. Yeah, scary,
sure.
Depressing. Mm-hmm. So obviously the ship wasn't extremely damaged whatsoever. However, it could have caused turbulence, which could have possibly released some alcohol vapors, causing explosions or loud sounds, which leads us to what I believe is the modern leading theory, which is that there was issues, some crazy stuff happening with the alcohol cargo.
Please welcome to the story our least favorite person we've come across yet, Anne McGregor, who seems like just sort of a wet blanket. You know when someone's first thing is a justification for being kind of lame, where they're like, I like comedy, but the thing you just said is pretty offensive. She literally had a quote where she's like, I love mysteries, but sometimes you have to pour back through the facts and determine what really happened.
Yeah, take this with a grain of salt, because she instantly ruled out sea monsters, which is... How can you do that?
I'm on board with that, technically. But
No.
She was also like, I talked to the great-great-great-grandchildren of the people that were on board, and they were pretty confident that they wouldn't have mutinied, so I took that off the docket immediately.
Yeah, not smart.
She did come up with a theory that is supported by a couple of things. So the 1,700 barrels of denatured alcohol, about 9 of them were empty when they came across it after it was abandoned. And those were all red oak instead
Yes.
of the white oak that was for all the rest of the barrels. And essentially, red oak is more porous, so the alcohol could have diffused out of it into a vapor or even just slowly come out of it. And she thinks that it either could have caused an explosion or it just could have filled the entire place with vapors, and that led the captain to abandoning ship. Because apparently, and this didn't make any sense to me when I read it the first time, there are some vapors too foul for sailors.
Yeah.
It's surprising.
Those are some nasty ones. Honestly, I would say take the whole 9 barrels with red oak with a grain of salt. But yeah, one of the leading theories is that the barrels released alcohol vapors could have smelled foul.
Smelled bad.
And there could have been a fear of fire, or there could have been actual explosions, rumbling noises, could have combusted. There was no sign of fire.
Well, I mean, if John Nuttings Parker made it the entire time on his journey with the ship without combusting, how do you think that it's going to happen with the new captain?
Oh, no. Anyways, anyway, it's possible. I saw on one source, which was interesting, maybe it blew some of the hatches open, which would be frightening.
Though also it could be that they open those hatches to try to air out the vapors from the alcohol.
True. So obviously there would be loud sounds, possibly actual explosions. There was a recreation, quote unquote, in 2002.
Think paper mache 6th grade recreation.
Yeah, where they found that alcohol could cause like an explosion and a fireball without leaving scorch marks. However, instead of barrels, they used paper. Which doesn't seem like a one-to-one trade.
It really does seem like on this entire study, their second conclusion that they came to was alcohol can actually cause a great time.
Very fun. Yeah, so the theory is there was some scary stuff going on. They evacuate ship. They got onto the lifeboat. But why would you tie yourself to a boat that's gonna explode?
Because maybe the vapors aired out. The issue for me is it's not documented happening a lot. There was another explosion of an alcohol ship.
That was an explosion. It was a blew up the
explosion.
ship. Yeah.
It blew it apart, and they don't even know if that was the alcohol that did it. Sometimes these, even in the late 1800s, would be carrying some cannons, and possibly a magazine could have exploded.
Scary. Yeah, I don't know. I do have some legitimate problems with this. I feel like the only reason everyone was like, he was so sound of mind, a brilliant captain, 7 experienced seamen on the crew. I don't think they would just jump ship if they heard some noises.
Yeah.
Without seeing any fire or anything. And I don't understand how there could have been an explosion or fire without any damage whatsoever.
Or scorch marks or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. This theory is like our new puppy we got. He's lame and doesn't work very well, but I like him still.
Yeah, shout out to Creature. We'll link his PayPal in the description. Yeah, so that is the main theory. Once again, there hasn't been that many similar circumstances whatsoever. But people are patting themselves on the back because they're like, it's chemistry.
Yeah.
You're patting yourself on the back.
Just call me a nerd and be done with this segment.
Nerd.
Thank you.
So going into the more supernatural theories, which I could believe that.
It was an explosion. It was an alcohol explosion.
I already said things that didn't match up with it.
Oh.
Okay. So none of the crew were ever seen again, which is tragic. And also, kind of crazy.
Yeah.
The ship was fine. The question still remains, why would a experienced crew, a rational-minded captain, abandon the fine ship? So, people theorize perhaps a Kraken. Okay, so in my notes I have Kraken attack ship? Question mark.
That's why I've been quietly chuckling to myself this entire time, because you're like, there wasn't enough damage to say that there was an explosion, or there wasn't enough damage to say that, like, the ship was going down. So, could it have been that the ship was attacked by a Kraken?
Okay, no, I am a scientist.
Okay, Mrs. Scientist, please.
Ladies
Dr.
and gents,
Scientist.
I did have a theory for this. So it could have been a kraken, a giant octopus, or squid. Giant squid can be up to 49 feet in length and have attacked ships before. So here is my theory. Maybe the kraken has his arms and he's like tantalizing them like little puppets. And they're like, oh my god, a kraken is... I just had another theory. Is just about to attack the ship. Abandoned ship. And then he eats the lifeboat. I think he could eat the lifeboat with all of them.
So you're saying that the Kraken has the intelligence to see the little people that are the morsels on top of the ship, and he sees, like, those are what I want to eat, not the ship. And he watches them all get off on the lifeboat and go behind, and they're getting on a smaller boat in order to fight a Kraken, and then he eats the smaller boat.
Well, he's smarter than the humans, because the humans think, oh, he just wants the boat. And I'll have you know, if a Kraken is related to an octopuses octopi are extremely smart. So yeah, he could have been capturing his prey, man. Trap it.
I stand completely corrected, and in the face of pure logic, I cede my side.
When you get destroyed by pure logic. Ben Shapiro, guest star on the next Anomalous.
If your wife's pussy is wet, take her to a doctor. She's gonna die.
I'm gonna destroy Cardi B, zwap, with pure logic.
And it's not gonna care about your feelings.
So I think that the Kraken could have destroyed the ship with pure logic. Perhaps a giant octopus or squid.
What was the theory you excitedly got halfway through talking about a puppet show that a Kraken put on?
Yeah, I'll get to it in my theories section.
Yeah.
Because the second theory that other people have said before, alien abduction.
This is a little peek behind the curtain, but in the future, could you put my theories in, like, fun highlighter?
Yes, I will. So, possible alien abduction. Perhaps all the people were just abducted. They were traveling in the same ocean as the Bermuda Triangle.
Now, break that down for me. What does that mean? They were inside the Bermuda Triangle?
No, but they were in the Atlantic Ocean, which the Bermuda Triangle is a part of.
Well, have you considered that the Atlantic Ocean is it's like a huge part of the Earth?
I think it's closer to the Bermuda Triangle than farther.
What?
Closer to the Bermuda Triangle than it is to most things except Portugal.
What about things next to it? What about other places in Europe?
I don't know, honestly. All I could say definitively is Portugal. I think maybe the aliens are like, I'm feeling spry. I want to get out of my triangle. I've been quarantined in this triangle for 50 million years. I want to get out, go on a jog. Oh, a ship? That's them abducting.
So I'm confused, and I feel like growingly upset about this Bermuda Triangle theory. I'm going to chalk it up to a zoning issue and ask what you got next.
Yeah. So these are my theories. One that I was like, oh my gosh, I just thought of this.
Can you do that really close to the mic for me?
One that I was just like, oh my gosh, I just thought of this. Okay. He was a religious man. Leviathan comes out of the water and plucks him up, and they're like fighting. The Leviathan's like those posts where it's like the devil says you won't repost this, but the Jesus says he's my son, he will repost it. So the Leviathan takes him and he's like, you won't see God, and God says, this is my son, repost on Facebook. So it's like a fight between God and the Leviathan for Captain Spooner.
I understood nothing of what you just told me.
I think Leviathans are biblical monster things that bring around end time, and I think they come from the water.
I believe that a Leviathan is a Kraken.
Dang.
You took that as proof?
Yes. Just made me think of mermaids and sirens. Perhaps they were involved.
Yeah, maybe he was like, I really need to get outside of my family with this marriage thing.
Yeah. My other theories are it sailed and it hit like a wormhole, like it sailed to they're in a different dimension or parallel universe.
You mentioned this. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Is there nothing else?
That is my theory.
Where do you think they ended up?
Well, maybe it was a really cool parallel universe and or dimension.
So they stayed.
Yeah. They're like, let me investigate this. And then their ship went back. It was like, peace out.
So the ship either returned without them, they just like ghost rode the whip back through the portal, or the portal was only like the right size that it hit the yawl, like they didn't see it and they'd abandoned ship for another reason, it just hit that.
Yeah, maybe maybe they saw some like mirage, like a glitch in the Matrix, and they're like, what is happening? We can't turn this ship around, let's get in the lifeboat and like run, this is existential crises. But they got sucked in to the portal to the other dimension or universe. My last theory
You didn't let that one breathe at all.
my last theory that I came up with myself, ghost pirates.
Ghost pirates?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Because they didn't leave. They can't really grab things, but they see pirates and they're like, holy.
Oh my god, I love that idea. So the ghost
Yeah.
pirates climb over the side, and then they scare them all off, but then the ghost pirates are like, yes, we've taken the ship. Let's grab all the booty. And then their hands just go through it, and it's like the end of a Twilight Zone episode.
Yes.
Where it's like, did you really want what you wished for?
Exactly. The scary door.
The scary door.
And maybe the ghost pirates aren't even conscious. They're just like going through the same routine like they did in life, like stealing booty. So they're just like grabbing things, but they're not. And that's why there's no damage.
It's like when Tyga dies. He's just going to be grabbing booty as a ghost for the rest of his life. Just in the club, grabbing asses. They're like, my ass is so cold. What's up with that? Am I hearing a spicy Latin beat?
Very fun. Rip Tyga. You will live on in the club.
Tyga will remember you once you die.
I will cry. I have a whole playlist.
You're crying right now.
No, Tyga.
He's alive.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop, whoop. That's what I would say. Oh, holy shit. A ghost taste. So those are my theories. Colin did a little research into the epilogue of the Celeste's, Mary Celeste's time on this earth.
Yes. The Mary Celeste, perhaps the unluckiest ship of all time. Perhaps cursed. And technically speaking, what's the difference? Is there any difference? Being cursed is just being like super unlucky unless you're Midas, I guess.
Yeah, I think if you were being cursed, there's like a clear action. Like someone cursed you. Something cursed you. And also, the unluckiest ship of all time, me having flashbacks to watching that 11-minute recreation of the Titanic sinking for no reason, and I cried. Ruined my day.
Yeah. We've really noticed a trend with you as you watch the first 3 minutes of that Challenger documentary and started to cry. There's a certain point every afternoon where she just opens up Google and types in tragedy and reads until she can't handle anymore, which is often on a scale of minutes.
Delectable. The pain.
So after all of this unraveled, the news coverage of the ship basically labeled it as a cursed or extremely unlucky vessel, and the highly educated crowd of sailors storming the shores of Boston and New York were pretty much on board with that.
I was gonna say, sailors or boat people, is that what they're called now? They seem very superstitious.
They really are.
I'm surprised that it did have like a life afterwards.
Yeah, they did still find people to sell it to and to trade with it over the next 13 years. Spooky.
Ooh.
17 different people owned it or captained it, and none of them really had a good time. Maybe because they had to pay sailors so much to get on a cursed vessel, or maybe because like the ship just wasn't very good by that point after being Frankenstein back together.
I feel like the people who would go on a cursed ship are the people who are like euphoric atheists, and they'd probably just be really obnoxious about it.
Definitely.
So
it didn't really make that much money on trading routes. And eventually, after those 13 years...
Ooh.
Took her a second.
Scary.
She's scanning the notes.
Ooh.
After it was taken over by Captain C. Parker, and going off of the names earlier in this episode, I'm just going to say the C stands for Cummings.
Yeah, you couldn't find any evidence to back that up.
Yeah, but I have a false memory that I did.
All right,
So-
fair enough.
So-
Mandela effect.
Now that we've settled that, Captain Cummings purposefully crashed the ship for insurance money. He had it overinsured for like $34,000 at the time, which is, I'm going to say, just $1 billion.
Seems right.
And his cargo was supposed to be beer and fish and some luxury items. And after he crashed it on like a well-known hazard near Haiti, they found on board that all of the beer was rotten, like runaways from smashed bottles at the at the bottling factory. Rotten fish that they said could only be used for fertilizer.
Ew.
A bunch of deluxe cutlery just turned out to be dog collars, and a bunch of like ladies' high boots were just old galoshes.
Yeah, put some respect on Galash's name.
Put some respect on Gilman Parker's name because he's so bold about it.
Yeah, he's very bold. I guess that is respectable.
He was like a longtime con man before all of this, but to like get that comfortable where you're just like, dog collars are vaguely similar enough.
Yeah.
And he tried to play both ends. He tried to get the insurance money, and then he also tried to sell all of the like cargo on board to some random people on Haiti. And they were immediately like, you know, we speak English and can tell people this isn't what's on the manifest, right?
I guess I do respect he was bold with it.
So they found out basically immediately that he was a huge scam artist just trying to get money out of the situation and put him on trial. It did not go well for him. He was just sputtering on the stand about, like, how sometimes sailors come up with fibs. He wasn't convicted just because the conviction for barrentry, which is to crash a ship on purpose, was death at the time, and the jury didn't like the idea of just killing him because he pulled, like, a fun prank.
A charming little rendezvous.
Yeah, a rendezvous with misadventure.
Yes. Misadventures.
But he did die 3 months later under obscure circumstances. But it was also like the turn of the century, so that basically means nothing. It could have been obscure circumstances and he just died from like a chronic illness he had.
I don't know.
They didn't
Seems
know that much
suspicious.
back then about anything, except for slaves.
Oh gosh, except for scamming bitches and catching fishes.
Scamming bitches and catching fishes.
Yeah.
So that wraps up the tale of the Mary Celeste, the least cursed, most Krakenified ship of all time.
Very fun. Yeah, I hope you learned something. Let us know what you think happened to the ill-fated crew on that mysterious journey. Believe in Kraken. Believe in yourself.
Believe in ghost ships. Believe in yourself.
Believe in ghost pirates and believe in yourself.
Good night.
This is Anomalous.